is the Orange Zone, sponsored by Apex Entertainment.
What's up, everyone? Welcome in to another edition of the Orange Zone podcast, sponsored by Apex Entertainment. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we have a very special guest with us today. Woo!
Drum roll, please. Long time coming.
What am I doing here?
This is Michael Benny. He's worked at CNY Central since 2000, anchoring CBS5 News. He also has a show on NBC3 at 7 o'clock. I love that show. But he's also covered numerous... Right? That's a great
favorite
show.
A little bit.
Too.
It is just lifestyle, exciting, interesting moments. I really appreciate it. But he's also covered numerous important sporting events in our town, including the SU men's basketball victory in the 2003 National Championship in New Orleans. And thanks to Ashley, interesting little nugget here, he cites one of his most memorable interviews as Babe Ruth's daughter at the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. Yeah. Can we just start there?
Sure. I mean, that is in a dark recess of my brain, but it was Hall of Fame induction weekend. At the time, I was working at WBNG TV in Binghamton. It was before I came to Syracuse. They send me off, a reporter who knows nothing about anything, how to cover a story. They send me there. All of a sudden, I remember kneeling down in a bookstore, finding this lady. I'm kind of big with older ladies, so that kind of worked.
Right.
She agrees to talk to me. We start talking, and someone behind me says, "Does he know who that is?" And of course, I'm like, "Pardon me, ma'am." That's Babe Ruth's daughter. And I went, well, that changes everything here.
Right.
That's crazy.
And I have almost no recollection of what she told me. I have almost no recollection of the store we were in when I did the interview. But I do remember this, and maybe you've had this happen with people who are famous or connected to famous people. It felt like a through line straight from my 10th grade social studies history book right to real life. Because that's his blood. You know, I mean, you sort of forget these people are not mythic figures that came out of nowhere. This is a guy who had a daughter, and here I am with her. It was remarkable, and I'm so grateful that those paths came together.
How old were you, do you think?
When I did that interview?
Yeah.
How old are you?
25.
I was younger than you. I was probably 20, probably 23.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I felt that way when we went to opening day, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm
with
like
the Mets,
Pete Alonso. No, honestly, not even forget like the baseball players. It was honestly the broadcasters. Like I'm seeing Gary Cohen and I'm like, wait, it's you?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
You have
weird
that moment
experience.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I think the more you see somebody on TV, it's like, wow, you're real.
You're real.
Person.
And in this case, it was, I mean, Babe Ruth, so
Right.
historic and so legendary and so much a part of American history. Here I am with someone who shared a life with this guy. It was it was really, really remarkable.
I love baseball. And if any of you watching are interested in baseball, check out the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. This is another
Little
podcast
plug.
that Ashley and
Nice
I do.
plug.
I'll plug shamelessly. I don't mind doing it. We're actually here to talk about Syracuse today, though, at least in some regard. And I figured before we get into the football, the basketball, anything we want to talk about, maybe you could just tell us some of, or one of even, your most prominent Syracuse sports memories being in this town.
It was something that unfolded, well, in this town to some degree, but then in New Orleans. It was going to the national championship and then Syracuse winning and being a reporter dispatched from Syracuse in New Orleans, covering this with the fans who were absolutely unhinged, off the hook, incredible. Being there outside a department store, I don't even remember what the name of the department store was, and the photographer says, "Do you see Julie Boeheim over there?" And I said, "Oh, but that'd be a great thing to get. So let's hustle on over there." And she had bought a new tie for her husband. And there on the street, I said, Julie, Michael Benny from at the time it was just Channel 5. We're down here. Can I just talk to you real quick? And she goes, yeah. I mean, everyone was in such a freaking good mood. You know what I mean? Here they were on the verge of, they were about to play in the championship game. And I just happened to say, well, what's in the bag? She, I just bought Jim a new tie. And she's pulling it out. And
It's a great story.
it's a great story. And
So
of course,
cool.
I'm calling back to the newsroom going, okay, we've got this, we've got this, we've got this. Oh, and I've got Julie Boeheim. And what did Julie Boeheim say? Oh, well, she showed me the tie that Jim's going to wear at the game tonight. Well, that's the lead story.
No, truly.
Off the top.
we're gonna lead with that. You know what I mean? Congratulations, good story.
A block.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I love to hear that, sincerely. And I do feel like, just to full circle it for a second, that's why I think now you're sort of seeing this shift where Kai and Anthony being here
Yeah.
feels so important. Like Rachel Culver, who also appears on the Orange Zone podcast from time to time, was saying the other day, her being someone who grew up here, that when she saw Carmelo Anthony in the locker room the other day, I imagine it's how you felt when you saw Babe Ruth's daughter to a certain extent. She was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
You know, he's here now. He's in
Yeah.
the locker room. He's present.
And if you're a certain age, if you're around my age or older, the fact that Carmelo Anthony's son is now here in town playing for Syracuse University, it makes you feel a certain age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you realize that there has been a generation gone by
Right.
since we were down there in New Orleans, and since this whole town was just catapulted to a new level with that victory.
Yeah, that's so crazy. The fact that he's old enough to have a son old enough, right?
Time.
This might be the same answer for you, but I'm really curious. One of the biggest things that I was thinking about when it pertains to you in the last 25 years here, sports-wise, what was your favorite, or what has been your favorite sports era? Was it that national championship run, or was it something else?
Wow, it probably was that, but I have to tell you, SU football has been fascinating with the number of coaches that there have been. So there have been, yes, in the sort of happy, wow, this is cool. It puts Syracuse on the map in new ways. You're in New Orleans, where you're from. Syracuse, oh my God, you're from Syracuse.
Yeah.
All of that. But then sort of like on the home front, I think from a news perspective, the football program has in a way been more newsworthy because of the turnover. I mean, I go back to one of my first assignments as a reporter, and I never pretended to be a sports reporter, and I never will, was should Paul Pasqualoni be fired? I remember the news director coming into the morning meeting saying, Michael, let's put Michael on that. You're going to go up, you're going to talk to people about whether Coach P should be fired. And I thought, first of all, I hate when anybody gets fired.
Yeah.
I think that's just for to be pumped about someone being fired. What's wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
What is actually wrong with you?
It's a weird sports thing.
It's
but
a weird
celebrated,
sports thing,
you know?
and it's celebrated to some degree. And I guess I was not truly aware of that, but there I go marching up to the SU Hill to do a story about whether Coach P should be fired. But it continues. With they're here for a little bit, then they're out. They're here
Right.
for a little bit, and then they're out. But to bring it to current, there hasn't been really, I guess, a star like Fran Brown to cover in a newsworthy kind of way.
I had a feeling that you might bring it to the present in that way with Fran Brown, because even though it's only been 2 years of Fran Brown, it's been such an impactful time, I think, in terms of the football program and in terms of how galvanized people have been in Central New York.
Which makes me wonder, like you mentioned, and I sort of appreciate that you say that, you're like, I'm not a sports reporter and I wouldn't pretend to be, but you have such an interesting perspective seeing things from the news side, seeing the way that reporters are asking questions. When it comes to Fran Brown, obviously we are meeting you here today at a time when he is on a hell of a losing streak. There is a legitimate chance that he will end the season this year with as many wins as he did losses last year. A pretty impactful turn of events that we've seen. But what do you think about him generally speaking and what you've seen over the past 2 years? Because there's a lot there.
I think that he has. First of all, I have great respect for the people who do these head coaching jobs, whether it's Fran Brown, Adrian Autry, Jim Boeheim before him, Felicia Leggett-Jack, and what she's doing with the women's program. The thing about Syracuse is this is a small town. How many jobs are there where you have that name recognition? People pick a cul-de-sac in Baldwinsville. Does every house there know the mayor of Syracuse's name?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I'm going to guess probably not.
Yeah.
Does someone in the house know who the head coach of SU football is? Yes.
Certainly.
Someone in the house does,
celebrity.
and someone in the neighbor's house does, and someone down the block does. And certainly Jim Boeheim, with his longevity, was beyond a household name.
There's a mural.
but there's a mural to him, exactly.
Right.
So I have great respect. These jobs are more than just head coaching jobs. These are community jobs. These are big deal jobs that can lift up a community and sometimes can depress a community a little bit. But that's great power in that. So I have huge respect for that.
I also think it's so unique in a city like Syracuse that's more of a medium-sized, smaller-sized city, right? Because in a place where you have some of these schools in larger, think about the University of Miami or the University of Pittsburgh, like Power 5 schools, and those head coaches are notable there for sure as well, but they're just a bigger city. There's other things going on. They're not the first people at the top of your mind, where I feel like in Syracuse, for a lot of SU sports fans, you know, Fran Brown is the celebrity you're seeing at Wegmans, right?
100%. I mean, do you know that in a story that I was doing about that Jim Boeheim mural, someone told me that Jim Boeheim legitimately helped to make February and March feel shorter.
Bearable, sure.
Right.
Like that's I also think a part of it is honestly how cold it is here. It's like people need something to watch and root for and do, and something to pump them up besides like the vitamin D supplements that they're taking. It honestly is depressing. It's depressing. I feel like we don't realize it here because us three are all here like every day and we're in the building from 2:30 to 11:30. I said that to him yesterday. I'm like, what difference does it make to me? Because by the time I get out of work, it's dark anyway. It's
And I'm in a
night.
windowless office anyway. That's where you do your work.
I
yeah.
realized
I'm
it
in
when
here.
it's white out on November 11th. I realized
Wait, it actually is windowless. Oh my God, I never thought about that.
It's windowless.
It's a fire
I
hazard
think
is what it
Fran
is.
Brown came in very, very strong community-wise.
Yeah.
I'm a book buddy with shameless plug for the book buddies with the United Way of Central New York and the Syracuse City School District. This is community volunteers helping children who are struggling to learn how to read. And he brought members of the team in. He came in, talked to them, revealed to me in an interview, I'm here today because they put me in the low reading group.
Yeah.
And I said, sir, they did the same thing to me. And now they pay me to read. Every single 5 days a week, they pay me
How ironic
for
is
hours
that?
a day to read many of the words written by someone else. That's a big deal. And so it was a big deal how he arrived in Central New York. The community give back stuff by getting those guys suits.
Right.
I mean, how many do I have of these? 8, 9, 10. For him to say, I did this because this may be the only suit, maybe they don't own a suit.
Yeah.
His understanding and his empathy, I don't know that there was another, in my time covering the news here, I don't know that there was another coach who was hired who came in with that level of empathy. And that's worth something.
And just the way he immersed himself, I think, too, right? Like, he is not from here. He's from New Jersey, so not that far away, the Northeast. But I think he made himself a part of this community so quickly in a way that other coaches maybe have not, right? Jim Boeheim did, but he was from here,
Sure.
lifelong Central New Yorker.
And maybe some people are either moving on from the season or they're giving a bit of a pass, or maybe the general tone of the coverage is the way it is because he built up a lot of goodwill even before there was a kickoff.
100%. I mean, honestly,
Well before there was a kickoff.
well before. I think that Syracuse fans, if it's a coach that they don't feel the way they do about Fran Brown, but the coach is struggling, Syracuse fans will not hold back. Like, we've seen Twitter spaces where they're like, fire this guy, fire that guy. And obviously everybody has a certain threshold for when it's time to fire the head coach.
Yeah.
But there are some people who jump on that ship early. And even still now with Fran Brown and the record he has, you honestly don't see a lot of that. You want people to shake things up. But people don't say fire Fran Brown. And there is a reason for that. When you talk about the community and the empathy, to me, the thing that actually stands out is the financial literacy. Like, I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent and I knew that, my son's head coach was acting in some respects as like a father figure, teaching my kid about money, like, that's the kind of stuff that matters down the line. And honestly, like, I remember watching a documentary on him, maybe 30 minutes long, talking about his upbringing. I really didn't quite understand the gravity of Camden, New Jersey, where he grew up, and what he had to truthfully go through and overcome to get to the place where he is today. So I think that the gratitude that he brings because of that it makes Syracuse people want him here beyond just the winning or losing record. And you don't see that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my favorite like moments or things that we've done here has been when Tommy Sladek, went down to Camden, New Jersey, and spoke to people from Camden High School right when he was hired. It was like he was hired, I believe, in December of 2023, and we went in February of 2024. And just that trip, speaking to those people who knew him and who shaped him and who are now watching him pave a way for even their kids, right? The high school football coach being like, now we love creating a pipeline up to Syracuse, and to have him, recruit these kids and bring these kids in and change their lives in a way was really impactful. But I just think there's so much about Fran, like you said, the financial literacy piece, the suits piece that the kids may have. He just gets it, right? Like whatever it is, he just gets it. And that's so important these days in college athletics, more important than ever before, because it's so different than ever before. It's such a business. It's turning so pro style with the NIL and the amount of money involved, that for a school like Syracuse to have a coach who nationally gets it is so critical, I think.
He also does this interesting thing with language that I've noticed through your coverage of him, and it's a political thing, because some of this job is politics. No matter whether it's any of the head coaches at Syracuse University, he does this thing with language where he'll finish a sentence. This is always during a Q&A. When you guys are in the room asking him about how a game turned out or something with a player, and he says, right. If you count the number of times when he's talking to you, he'll say, this is a white piece of paper, right? And this is a phone, right? And we're going to do this, right? We're going to do this, right? And I don't know if he's even aware that he's doing it. There are some other people in politics who do it. The Onondaga County executive, Ryan McMahon, does the very same thing. I've never asked Ryan about this, whether he even is aware that he's doing it. But it's this little thing I've noticed in politics where you keep saying right, and all of a sudden you're owning what you're saying. And there is, to some degree, especially if you're saying something that's controversial or something that you don't want to be asked a lot of questions about down the road, or even a follow-up question, there is a way that sort of infuses into your audience. And when you're in person questioning the person, you think, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, right.
Because you have to think about it for a split second. He is right, or he's not.
Or he's not.
Right.
And I would love for a reporter to say, is that right?
But honestly,
right?
maybe the simplicity of that question is good enough. I think he would also blow a gasket, to be honest. But no,
well,
I agree.
I think that's, sometimes blowing a gasket, sometimes I think we're too worried about people blowing a gasket. And that's what I always say to the two of you after a sportscast, especially when it's one of those news conference days. Did we ask about this? Did we ask about this? Did we ask about that? Well, why didn't we say, going back to the quarterback battle, which was not a quarterback battle at all. And it seems like everybody knew it, but that was the narrative the whole time. What you're seeing is also part of the reporting. And that's what I would love to see even more of.
Yeah.
It's one thing for the coach to say one thing, right? It's another thing for you to be there and see what you're seeing. So using all of your senses and couple that with the narrative that's coming from the podium, that's a more full telling of the story.
I mean, it's a great point, because as all the things that we've said about him previously on this podcast just now are true, it's also true to say there was not a quarterback battle, and he kind of bluffed about that.
There's been a few narratives this season. I would say narratives is a good word.
Yeah.
But a narrative is only as good as the narrative gets picked up by people who are then informing. Don't forget, when you're in that room with those coaches after a game, it's really just you. It could be a live stream wherever, but you're. I feel like sometimes we've got the script flipped. You're in control of the questioning. You're there representing all of the people who are watching, all of the people who want to know, all of the fans.
Yeah.
So I think just a little tweak there, and I've seen that change over the course of, maybe the last 10, 15 years. The questioning it's never been something that is either inauthentic or rude. I would never suggest that. But some tough questions are good for all of these folks every now and again.
I totally agree. And I think that, obviously Coach Brown being in his second year, I think he's getting a better understanding of what that looks and feels like. But I agree with you to say it's not just him, right? I mean, I feel like who is a better example of what you can encounter at a press conference than Jim Boeheim. Right? Like, that was a hard person to ask questions to. And obviously we were there at the very tail end of that. But I agree. I don't think you should shy away from that, because here's the other thing. I think sometimes these coaches even surprise themselves. What if you ask them a hard question looking for accountability and they take it? Like, you don't want to strip them of that opportunity either. That's what I think, at least.
Well, and in a way, it's obviously our jobs to provide the fans like the truth, right?
Yes.
That's what it all boils down to, journalism-wise and news and sports and anything. But when there is something that feels like a narrative, like that quarterback battle did, it's our job to now, even if we didn't know it at first, because we truly didn't. We didn't sit in on the practices. We didn't know. But when we do catch on to that a few months later, I think it's then our job to make it clear that that was false.
I feel like with Syracuse University in particular, there seems to, over the course of 25 years that I've been privy to, the conversations that are after the news conference, the conversations with the people who are in the room asking the questions, that there's been concern about we're not gonna go down that road because we want to be invited back. There's this like access thing, and I would say to the folks who are running the PR show, you've got to calm down about that. You've got no one should feel in that room as a journalist in this town that access is going to be in any way restricted because of a question that you ask someone who's out there in front of a microphone.
Which I will say, this is obviously the only job in journalism I've ever had, so I don't have any on-the-ground experience, but from people that I do know in other markets, close friends and peers, and I will say it's not like that everywhere. So to reinforce that, it does seem unique to the university and to the town in a few ways.
Interesting.
I think that you still have to kind of push back against that in a way, and figure out what we're able to do here, because like you said, and I feel like this is something that you push out a lot, I think that as a journalist, your main priority at all times should be the viewer, and I'll leave it at that. Beyond that, there was one other topic that I wanted to ask you about before we kind of hit 3:45 here. You mentioned that now Syracuse football is a business, and it is. Name, image, and likeness is something that we have talked about a lot on this podcast, particularly on the off weeks, because you do wonder if it impacts Syracuse football's success. And I think the answer to that in some ways is a resounding yes. Yesterday, when we were prepping a little bit for this podcast, I asked Ashley, something to the effect of, should we ask about name, image, and likeness and the fact that Syracuse wasn't able to give more money? And Ashley said, Syracuse did give out a lot of money to football players. It was just in the wrong places. And I think my question to you, just as someone who has watched the landscape of college athletics over the past 25 years, is, for a guy like, let's say, Ricky Collins, where we really think he's making in the realm of what?
$500,000 to $1 million.
$500,000 to $1 million.
For 1 year.
He is not very good. And Syracuse's record is not very good. It's like, I guess on the one hand, you have the fact that these players should be getting paid when there's so much money in college football. At the same time, does that impact the team and the culture and how teams operate? What do you think about players getting money for their performance?
I think they absolutely deserve it. It's long overdue. I think what you're experiencing now is all the growing pains of something that has come into a program, not just here but everywhere, and shaken it. Has anything shaken these programs like NIL?
No.
I mean, it's
Wild West.
It's the Wild West. It's why the portal is like a lunatic asylum, and trying to. It's like whack-a-mole. I remember saying that when Fran Brown started. I'm thinking, this guy is up against this landscape that's nothing like what it was just a couple of years ago. So I take a step back and say, is it working at the moment the way it's designed to? I have no idea. But I know that whatever we say about it today is going to be out of date 2 years from now.
So true.
When more of the ground settles. It's like an earthquake happened.
Yeah.
With money, which is like a bad kind of earthquake to happen. You know what I mean? Because it just changes so many of the key fundamentals of it. So I don't think that anything that I could say about it right now is going to hold 2 years from now, except that maybe it will have settled a little bit. And you won't be talking about Ricky Collins. You'll be talking about someone else, and maybe the ground will be a little more firm for that young man. What a time to be one of these student athletes, and what a time to be one of these coaches who's, I mean, every time the phone rings, I would be like,
Yeah.
what is it now?
100%.
Like, I don't want to, I'm not going to answer it. You answer it.
Yeah.
And tell me if it's bad or tell me if it's good. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And then we'll deal with it.
All I'll say on that is all the more reason why it's important to have a coach who is teaching you financial literacy. Because if I happen to come into $750,000 right now, I'm not sure I'd know what to do with it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah.
Right.
We talk about all the time how this era feels like the Wild West of NIL. Like, it feels like in 5 or 10 years with the house settlement and with, maybe athletes are going to become employees, we're going to look back on all of this and be like, oh my goodness, there was no rules. It was crazy what was going on.
And everyone was just trying to hold on.
Yeah.
And again, the money earthquake, who's holding up? I mean, do you blame these people for just going for whatever the best they can get is?
I mean, if
When you're-
that was the best that was offered to me, I can't say I wouldn't consider
When you're a
it.
21-year-old Ricky Collins and Syracuse University says, yeah, we'll hand you, a 6-figure check. Okay, sure.
Certainly, but the financial literacy part is huge because Ricky Collins, long after people have forgotten that he didn't have such a great go of it as the quarterback at Syracuse University, he is going to need all of the skills that he has learned by going through the fire of being roasted
Yeah.
by the people of Syracuse and fans everywhere. He is still going to have to go on with his life, and why shouldn't he be compensated for what he's doing? He needs probably help in planning what that looks like.
100%.
So why not be giving it to him? I think what Coach Brown is doing on that piece is so necessary. I mean, we're praising it, but it's like a no-brainer, and I'm sure that the coach knows that.
And the Collins debate is interesting because I think a lot of times, like you touched on, Syracuse feels like it doesn't have maybe all of the resources to be fully competitive with the top tier schools in the SEC and the Big Ten. But in this instance, they did. They shelled out the money and it didn't pan out. And maybe that's what I think SU football fans are grappling with more than anything.
I agree with that. I think you're taking a risk with some of these guys in the portal. You don't know what you're going to get, which is why I think calling it the Wild Wild West makes sense. It's like you just have no idea watching these guys on tape a little bit or even talking to them on the phone what you're really going to get out of them as an athlete. But I'll say this to conclude this. I think that even if Ricky Collins finishes the year without a single win, he is going to be in such a better position to start his life than 95% of 22-year-olds. You know what I mean? So in that way, I guess you gain something from it and learn something from it.
How old is he again?
He probably
I think
is.
he's 20, 21.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
It's wild. I wish him all the best. To be roasted at 21 and all of that. What I mean, booed. What garbage. What absolute garbage. I wish him all the best. I really do.
It's not his fault, but thinking about the donors and those people who paid that money, NIL-wise, to Fran and the program, that's where I think you get into another side of things that obviously those people are disappointed.
Maybe that's what we'll talk about next week. Final thoughts from either of you guys, and then we'll get out of here and wrap it up.
I can't believe I got through it.
You did great.
I feel like we could keep talking for another hour.
Wait, I feel like
I am so out of my league with the two of you.
We could talk about
You're right in your
so
league.
many different topics. I feel like we could probably sit down on this table and have a meaningful discussion about a handful of things. So maybe let's do it again.
We've always joked that we're going to start a spin-off third podcast with Michael about a
Called
variety
Suitcase.
of topics.
Oh my gosh. No.
It's called Suitcase. We'll explain why when we drop it.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks so much for joining us for the Orange Zone podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. It really helps us out when you do that. Otherwise, we'll see you back here when the next big thing happens. Have a great week.